I threw a couple of things on the agenda, but there's not much on there.
The no, we probably should just go through the board, yeah.
Yeah, probably. The only thing we should probably that we might want to talk about a little bit in this meeting, even though it's not necessarily governance related, is the
Oh
maintainer
yeah, yeah,
proposals. Because we can talk about that in the general tag meeting, but then I think a lot of us won't have time to work on it before the 31st.
yeah. That is a good point, particularly because I'm trying to chivvy along maintainer track proposals for like 5 other projects. Um, yeah, I guess the question is, do we have a topic for the maintainer track session?
Yeah,
The
the last couple of KubeCons, we've had a topic for the maintainer track
mhm.
session, something specific. So I think we did mostly the deaf and hard of hearing along with the Maori stuff at the last one. The time before that, I don't remember
Yeah,
what we did. We did one that was a deep dive on governance. We did one
yeah.
like project paperwork. I'm wondering if it's time to do just like a general tag update and talk about all of the things that we're doing, because I feel like we haven't done that in a while.
Yeah. I mean, I can. Yeah, I mean, my concern obviously is with any kind of thing that's just sort of a general thing is whether or not people will attend it,
Yes, agreed.
right? Like the last one with the deaf and hard of hearing was actually pretty well attended.
It was,
Um,
that was a great session too.
the and that's why I'm always more in favor of something specifically focused.
Yeah.
Um, like among other things, by Paris, there's a couple of ideas, so let me write them down. So um, let's put down the I can think of a couple of other things. Um, one of them would obviously be, and this would take a lot of working up, but strategies to attract and promote contributors. I mean, that would be reasonably popular among our target audience, which is project leads.
Mm-hmm.
Um, of course, that could also be a maintainer circle if we wanted to do a maintainer circle.
Yeah. And I actually have a fair bit of content on that particular topic because I've done a few talks recently. We would just need to,
Yeah.
um, yeah, we would just need to reformat it a bit and make it more specific.
Mm-hmm.
But I have what we could use as a good starting point for it, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah. A second possibility would be is that the new matriculation process should be approved by the TOC by then, hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously we could go over what that means to projects.
Yeah.
The and that would be probably us and some TOC members. The a third thing that I want to throw in the mix and maybe just have it down here as an idea would be and this would be specifically one that like Rian and Ollie and maybe even Hippie and stuff would do, which would be GitHub stuff for CNCF projects. It's something that there's a fair amount of interest for. Mind you, that topic, if we actually planned it ahead, could be a main track proposal for Salt Lake City. Does not need to be a maintainer session.
Mm-hmm.
And for that reason, I would say that would actually be kind of the main reason to do that topic is either, if say Rian needs a justification for going to Paris, or or if none of the other topics worked out.
Yeah.
And any other ideas for topics?
I think a topic around cleaning up your Git repo might actually be a good seller. Because the more repos I see, the more work I see.
Yep.
And I think too, we could roll in maybe some of the road mapping stuff that we talked
Yeah.
about. Some of those best practices. I think.
Which must tie into the cleaning up your Git repo, which is basically what we did: clean up repo, create roadmaps,
Yeah.
sort out your labels.
Mm-hmm.
The yeah, I mean, because really when I look at what are we going to do for our sessions, it's always a what's going to get project leads who never have anything other than, 5 different conflicts in every time slot to show up.
Yeah.
So, and actually we have another major topic.
So I was thinking about the governance, like how to fix your governance or something like that. And the resources, but I don't know if you have done it before already, like the templates, resources, etc. But yeah. Basically.
Yeah, and we have done that before.
Okay.
I mean, not for a year. But we've done it more recently than we've done anything about recruiting contributors.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Which is why I was thinking about switching to recruiting contributors.
Yeah.
Also, I kind of want, if we're going to do another governance, I want that to be after the new matriculation checklist, because then we can actually match up the templates and everything to specifically the maturity requirements.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The I mean, actually, I think what would be more fun for a governance thing would be to actually bring in people from a few projects who have advanced their governance and have them talk about doing that rather than necessarily us talk about here's the templates.
Okay.
If you
Maybe
follow me, so
something
like bring in
panel discussion.
Yeah. And again, a lot of this sort of strays over into the realm of, hey, also maintainer circle. By the way, unless somebody is on fire about something, with Dave still out, I wasn't going to try to plan a maintainer circle in Paris. Beyond the fact that we're stretched a little thin, there's also the fact that I've been told by the event staff that space in the Paris venue is at a premium, and that they can't guarantee that we would have space for a maintainer circle. So it doesn't seem like a good KubeCon to try to scrape something together.
Yeah. And it's always a challenge, I think, to getting the maintainer circles to happen at the in-person events, because they always put us in one of the little meeting rooms somewhere really far away, and nobody knows where it is. Everybody, like you said, the maintainers are already double and triple booked.
Mm-hmm.
Those feel really hard anyway, and I'd be really cool with not doing one in Paris.
Yeah, there's the Salt Lake City Convention Center is supposed to be a lot more spacious. So I think we can look at it again in there.
Mm-hmm.
And part of it's going to be depending on sort of the schedule, right? Because also, looking at how things were in Chicago, where every sort of lunchtime block, at least for me personally, was always double booked. Like, I don't think I got to eat lunch the whole conference. That if we'd had a maintainer circle in Chicago, I don't know when we would have had it.
Yeah.
So, Okay,
The two that I think I like best are the strategies to attract and promote contributors and the GitHub for CNCF projects. I do think if we do the GitHub one, that we should also try to frame that around how the things you do in GitHub actually help you attract and retain contributors, just to make sure that
Yeah.
the link to the contributor strategy is really clear.
okay.
Yeah,
Um,
I'd be okay with either one. I don't know what other people think. I'll admit I don't really need a speaking slot as a justification for coming.
Yeah.
So because I can get Amy or somebody to give me a free ticket, and then
well,
Chaos is
and it-
happy for me to come.
yeah, and I never need one, because my employer has me do things at KubeCon, so
Yeah.
the plus I can get discounts, so I've actually already paid for a ticket. The
Yep.
So same for me. I already
Yeah.
do maintainer session for Knative.
Yeah.
With a talk, and I think there's a good chance that it will be accepted. But
Yeah.
For GitHub for CNCF projects or others, I can definitely help, even though I don't have to. If there is someone else who needs a
Yeah.
ticket or something.
Yeah.
I
This
can
is more of a who do we list as speakers on there because they need the pass
Mhm.
and or the justification for travel. I would say it wouldn't hurt to put you on there, Ollie, just because I know what our travel budgets are like, and it wouldn't be bad for you to be listed on 2 talks instead of just one. Okay.
I suspect I would also definitely be at KubeCon, both US and EU.
Yeah. Okay.
We can do a thing.
Yeah. Well, and you have a pass regardless. The only question is whether or not the Linux Foundation sends you there. So okay. Yeah. So the question would be, it would be definitely Rian, probably Ali. If Hippie is going, he would potentially have some input. Is there anybody like sort of new, anybody who's like not one of our regulars who would also be valuable for a session like that?
Jay's got a mentee that he's got working with him she was actually at KubeCon Chicago, and I'm trying to get her to get involved with the contributor strategy and see if she can come to some of the meetings, and if we can build her up over the next, say, 6 months, and it looks promising towards KubeCon, she might be a good ask to join.
Okay.
And last time Chicago, she actually went under the DanCon scholarship.
Yeah.
So we can see if I don't know if they'll allow a second round of that. If she's gonna go on the scholarship, she's really a very good contributor and doing a lot of good work in schools, teaching kids how to contribute and so on. So
okay, where does she live?
she's in New Zealand. So she and Jay actually work together in the schools.
Okay. But she has an expensive flight regardless of which KubeCon she's going to. That was more what I was checking on.
But it might be better to wait for Salt Lake City, because she hasn't really participated much in the tag yet, and we need to complete this proposal.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind sort of aspirationally listing, but if she's going for a second DanCon scholarship, then that really requires her to put together a solid pitch as to why she's essential, which would be hard right now.
And I agree with Dawn, only for Salt Lake City, not for Europe. She has not been here yet. So I'm working on that. If she put in at least a good 6 months of sorting out things, she would be a good call, but not before that.
Well, so then the question is, do we want to then do the sort of more general how to attract and advance contributors for Harris and plan on doing the GitHub one for Salt Lake City?
I think that seems reasonable.
I think so too.
And
Okay.
I think too, I mean, Rihanna, I'm just gonna put your name down on the strategies to attract and promote contributors, because I think we can also put
Yeah.
in some like road mapping stuff as well.
Yeah. And I can definitely fill in there. This will give me in the land of conference-based development, it'll give me the impetus to take some of our internal materials and actually make them publicly suitable. The okay.
So did we make a decision now? Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, we made a decision that we're going to go with the strategies for attracting and promoting contributors. And I can hammer out an initial draft because I'm very fast to write these ones, and I'll throw it on the channel and
I
people can pick at it.
will, I'll send you what I have, which is proposals that I've done. So it
Mhm.
might give you some other things to think about. What's the
Okay.
best way to send that to you? I know things keep getting lost in Slack. Is email better or?
No. Slack is still better.
Okay.
The I mean, it's better on the public channel if you're okay with it being public. The because the main problem with Slack these days is that it rotationally hides your private chats.
Yeah, the notifications have gotten ridiculous.
Yeah, I think you know what? Are we allowed to create? I think we're allowed to create private channels in CNCF Slack. Let's actually create a named contributor strategy leads channel. Because having it as a named channel would be better
Hmm.
in terms of how Slack works.
Yeah.
The so that would be both the tag leads and our working group leads.
I'm on it.
On what?
Creating the channel.
Oh, perfect.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I don't know if we can create private channels or if a staff member needs to do it. If a staff member needs to do it, we'll ask Brian. The
No, I can do it.
mhm.
So, how many folks are allowed in a maintainer session? It's still 2, right?
No, you can actually have a panel as long as you actually meet panel requirements,
Okay.
which is they have to have different employers and you have to have at least one male presenter, both of which we qualify as. So, the so we can list people, we can list everybody. I mean, but also keep in mind we've just been over how we don't have to list everybody, right? The because most of us have passes from other sources, so the but if we have 4 people who are going to be taking turns at speaking, then we might as well list
Okay. So,
them. The other person that I want to loop in there is Catherine, of course, because if she's going, um, she has things to say about actually roping in on code contributors. The because she's had a fair amount of success with that in Linkerd.
Yeah, let me know when you've created the channel and I can drop that.
Yep. Yeah, let me already create it.
Oh, there we go.
Okay, and I'll add a couple of people for the other working groups. Okay. So we've got a plan for that. Moving on. No, we did a project kiosk canvas, but we never actually went back and did an assessment. And for that matter, the third and fourth canvas didn't flag which projects they talked to. So so we need to actually get everybody to write up their experience. I should have taken more notes. I didn't really have anything to take notes on at the time, particularly with internet largely not working in the convention hall. So yeah, because we had that, and then, but if you look at the checklist, the first two canvases marked down who they visited, and then the second two canvases didn't. So I don't even know what a level of coverage was. So but we should also write up what we talk to projects about, what, their main challenges are, etc. I mean, my personal experiences is we didn't get to a lot of that because in like at least 50% of the cases, these projects had never heard of tag contributor strategy before. So we actually spent most of our few minutes with them simply explaining what we were, what kind of help was available, what we did, etc. Which was one of the goals of the canvas. It just, we didn't really get to the data collection part because because it was too new to the project staff.
Yeah, so I think I share your opinion. So we also, I think, had the same experience. When we talked to the projects, the people, they were more like they didn't know, and we used our time to explain our stuff. And there was not really time. I mean, in the end, we talked for like 5 minutes or something, and then we didn't really want to talk about all the new stuff that's happening because that was new. And there were a few projects who really didn't care, which was
Yeah,
kind of funny.
Envoy did not want to talk to us at all. That was an amusing conversation. They clearly did not want to talk to us. It was pretty funny.
And I think only one or two projects. So we were pairing with Dawn. They actually knew about the tag resources, and they were actually very happy, and they were like very thankful and everything. But there were like really exceptions.
Yeah. I mean, I did end up talking to a couple of projects about pre-existing requests that they had. Because they were projects that had already reached out to us. And so there was just some follow-up with them. about how things were going, etc. The yeah, because I canvassed with Dave, and I think actually we were focusing first on projects that were only there in the morning, and we kind of had decided to start with projects that we hadn't, except for the ones that I knew I personally needed to follow up with. We otherwise hit projects that we hadn't talked to because we were more focused on that. So did anybody get to the point of actually talking to projects about, their sort of general problems?
I feel like we
I-
touched on it with a couple of projects, but I don't remember, frankly, I don't remember which
Mhm.
ones. Because it
Yeah.
was just a while ago and it was a lot of projects in one go.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
we did talk about the problems and gave people suggestions, but most of it was, I feel like we didn't focus on trying to solve their problems on the show floor. I feel like
Yeah.
we kind of talked in general about some resources that we had and encouraged them to come to meetings, and encouraged them to pop into the Slack channel. So it was really, I feel like we used the time more to push people to our channels and let us know that we exist and come to us for questions,
Mhm.
than trying to actively solve their problems while just wandering around the show floor.
Okay.
One actual problem that I remember is, I mean, it's applicable to pretty much any project, is that they were looking to recruit more contributors and they were asking about strategies to do that. And we gave some answers specific to project. I think that was like
Mhm.
2 or 3 projects like that. But it's a common problem anyway, I think.
Yeah, that was definitely the most common concern, which is not surprising.
Yeah. Which is a good argument in favor of the maintainer session topic we've already chosen. So
Mhm.
the yeah, incidentally, I'm also talking to some of the KubeCon staff for Salt Lake City about trying to organize something more programmatic for sandbox projects, because I've realized that we have this kind of structural catch-22 with sandbox projects, right? Which is, for sandbox projects to advance to incubating, they need contributors and adopters, but the CNCF really doesn't provide them with any venues to attract those things. Like, the main opportunities to attract contributors at KubeCon are open only to incubating and graduated projects. And so I don't know what that would look like, but it's something to definitely think about, in terms of what we would suggest to the CNCF, because based on the number of sandbox projects and the usual scheduling problems, we'd need to suggest something that was a little bit more cattle call, or speed dating or something else, something that could be done en masse rather
Yeah.
than something where each project got a session, because they just can't. There's like 100 sandbox projects.
No, it's too many.
So I mean, almost bringing back the speed dating for projects would obviously be one option. The problem with that is that I don't know how successful that's been in the past to actually get contributors. When we did the speed dating for Kubernetes, it actually worked pretty well. But I didn't end up participating in any of the ones that were more general for CNCF projects, and I don't know how well they worked in attracting real contributors.
How does it work? I don't know what that means, like speed dating.
So what happens is, project maintainers, contributors, whoever signs up, they get placed at a bunch of little tables in a room. You have like 40 little tables in a room. And then the attendees can filter in and they can hop from table to table to talk to people.
Okay.
And there's a timer to encourage people to move along so that someone else can take their seat. We did a couple of these for Kubernetes and it actually did work it mainly where it worked was people who showed up who wanted to contribute anyway, they just weren't sure where.
Okay.
So, Josh, if I understand you correctly, you want to have an opportunity. We have this with all the tables, and every table is another sandbox project. And then you advertise, if you want to contribute, come hear all these stories, and then you can go from table to
Yeah.
table and ask what the project is about.
Yeah. Yeah.
That
And
sounds nice.
yeah, but like I said, I'd like to query because KubeCon has actually done this before. So I'd like to query how people felt about it in terms of its level of success before. Because we actually would kind of want to get two things out of a contributor thing for future KubeCons for sandbox projects, right? One end of it is we want to provide sandbox projects with an opportunity to actually solicit contributors at KubeCon, which is an opportunity they don't necessarily have right now. But the other side of it is we also want to provide the sandbox projects with a little bit of extra deadline-oriented incentive to do things like get their contributing.md file into decent shape. Because I mean, I'll tell you, for the projects that I work on specifically because they're going for advancement, one of the first things I end up doing is saying, hey, you know, you totally need to overhaul your how to contribute file because half of it's missing and the other half is out of date. So something to think about, right? So the speed dating is one idea, but if people have other ideas for things, because I think if we suggest something to the KubeCon staff for Salt Lake City, they'll be interested in that suggestion. So we want to come up with something that we think will work. And of course, some of us will end up having to get involved in running it, whatever it is.
Yep, sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
I think the different, if you present it like that, because at KubeCon being my first KubeCon, the sandbox area, when you talk to the people, it feel like they're more trying to market their, not their product, but this is what we do and this is why it's cool. And very little of them actually try to recruit while they're there. So you get a marketing feeling, not a recruiting feeling. And I think at Chicago, there was, I think they said 60% of the people are new. That's never been to a KubeCon. So there's not from a first-time KubeConer, there's not much of a different feel from the commercial side where they hand out swag and tell them about their product, and the sandbox area, it's not all that clear that these are places where you can contribute and projects that is looking for contributors, and also the interaction with the people doesn't feel like please come contribute. But if you have a very specific arrangement, these are all the projects, do you want to contribute, and you advertise it well, I think there's really a lot of people that want to contribute and find places to contribute. So it might be, but you need to really make it clear this is the thing that we plan to do here. And I think you will attract a lot of people. Mm-hmm. Success is the good question that you said. Yeah. How successful it is the other question.
Yeah. I mean, okay, I mean, that's planning for Salt Lake City. So I just wanted to put that in there, you know, so people could be sort of thinking about ideas for that. And then we can get into sort of details and everything else. Because I can think of other ways to frame it, like, for example, requiring projects that we're applying to link to their contributing.md and their list of help wanted items. And so then we can sort of do this because we can do this for Paris, right? If by that point we're planning for this in Salt Lake City for Paris, say, hey, you know, these are the things that your project needs to have together. And you know, there's going to be more opportunities. So, okay. Do we have anything else? We should go to the project board.
No, I think project board.
Okay.
Let me share my screen. Um,
Yeah, that would be helpful. Thank you. It's always easier to walk through the project board if we do it together.
Okay. There's nothing new. I skipped a new column. Anything changed in these blocked ones? I will talk about Knative, but in the next meeting, I need to do some preparing for this. But I think we are almost there now that we will actually apply for the graduation, and then we will actually need a review, governance review now, finally.
As you are now part of the steering committee, congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you.
But as we mentioned before, that does mean that Dawn probably needs to do that governance review. Because Ollie's on the steering committee and I wrote the original governance documents for Knative. So there's no way either of us has any objectivity.
Yeah, no, I can do that. But by that point, I mean, we're sorry, this is Dawn, who's been at conferences for the last 2 months and hasn't been to any of the meetings.
Yeah.
Where are we with the self-assessment for governance?
It is not, we haven't made any progress on it. So that's really, you know, something we should put down. I mean, part of it is we're going to slightly adjust the governance review according to the draft checklist for project advancement.
Okay.
Because particularly the working group's proposal was that there actually are some light governance requirements at the incubating level. And so we'd want to have actually a self-assessment at the incubating level, as well as a more extensive self-assessment at the graduating level.
Okay.
And particularly, like, one of the things that we went over a whole lot because of an attempt to change some of the major graduated requirements is the requirement that one of the focuses of governance at the graduated level should be that the project has a feasible way to replace maintainers, since that has been a big problem in the past for the CNCF.
Yeah.
That if they do not have a maintainer pipeline, then it's a looming crisis.
Okay. So that but that project to sorry, I'm forgetting what it's called. It's late here.
The self-assessment, yeah.
Not the self-assessment, the other bit, the moving the levels thing. That's not gonna be done for another couple of months, correct?
Yeah, I don't know. And the problem is it needs to go to the TOC now, and I can't imagine that the TOC won't change it at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I don't know. But so suggesting we just write up what we have?
No, what I'm gonna suggest is that we pick out the bits that are in the self-assessment right now that are things that we let me rephrase this. I think that what we want the projects to do is some of the grunt work to find all the documents and give us the links to those. So I'm wondering if we can put together maybe it's not a governance self-assessment because we're not sure exactly how things are going to be assessed, but maybe it's at least like the data gathering bit, because a lot of the time that I spend doing the governance reviews is just clicking on stuff trying to find things.
Yeah.
And if we can have a list of here's all of the things that we're looking for, can you send us the link to, especially because we want the commit, send us the link to the commit with this, thing. Like, I'm wondering, can we just simplify this and at least put together the data gathering bit as not necessarily a self-assessment, but like a governance review pre-work for the project? While we finish then working on self-assessment along with the moving levels.
That sounds good to me.
Because I feel like, Ali, you've probably done most of that as part of the self-assessment template anyways. We could pull those bits out and just start using those for projects.
Yeah. And actually that would also lead projects to clean some things up. Because if we ask a question like, hey, where's the document that describes how you select your security response committee? And they realize they don't have one, they're going to write one in a hurry.
Yep, exactly. So I feel like that even if it's just data gathering and we're not asking them to assess anything, I think it will help us with the process.
Okay.
So to kind of summarize, can I say that this self-assessment guide is kind of now on hold until TOC?
No, I would say actually I like Dawn's plan here, which is we focus right now on getting the list of questions, the where is the X, together, without making it checklist oriented, because we know the checklist is going to change. And we try to get that out, and say turn it into an issue template, right? So that when a project requests a governance review, they're filling out this issue template that has all of these questions.
Yeah.
So I was
and we
thinking
could call,
that,
but rather than calling it a self-assessment, like I agree with Ali, maybe we put the self-assessment on hold and bring this up as kind of a separate thing where we call it like the governance review pre-work or something like that.
Yeah.
Self-assessment checklist.
No, because we don't want to call it a self-assessment because we don't want to, I don't think we want to go there yet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and there's some parts of the assessment that projects can't do themselves, like for example, findability for obvious reasons. Which is actually honestly a very common problem with projects where it's like, oh, hey, their governance is fine, but you would have to be told by somebody where it is because it's in a subfolder of a repo that's used for something else. So yeah, that sounds like a good plan. And it limits the work to get out something useful.
Yeah.
So so do we want to throw a quick because part of it is we're in a sort of, we've got a feature branch open. It's got a bunch of stuff in it. But mostly by Ali. So let's go through and pick the questions out of that.
Pick questions out of that. So I can probably work on this. I like this work, honestly.
Okay.
What I thought is just, where is your security response
Mhm.
document? Where is your, I don't know, contributor guide or whatever, contributor ladder, things like that?
Yeah. Yeah, well, we've got the little grid of documents, right? And so one of the things is going to be just a listing of, please supply us with a link to this. Um, the
So I think based on that, I won't actually do your self-assessment. Is this clear enough? Like, or did you have links everywhere in your repository to the contributor ladder or like governance documents and things like that? So those kind of questions then will not be there. It will be only that data gathering.
yeah, data gathering and some other things that we can ask them that are easier for them to answer than for us to discover. Like, for example, how has your governance changed over time?
Hmm.
Right? Um, yeah. So
Okay, I will try to do my own assessment on the existing questions and then we can discuss on Google Docs or on a PR. I don't know.
yep.
Okay. So I will create a new task and ping you folks.
Yeah, that sounds good. Thank you.
Speaking of governance reviews, so this existing template, I was doing some improvements there,
Hmm.
which was a bit long time ago. Right now, I don't remember what exactly I did, but I saw there was this final comment from the wording, critical and blocker. I changed everything. It was like yesterday or something. Yeah, so now there is only critical in the document. There is no blocker, there is no must fix.
Okay.
This might be ready to merge.
Okay. Yeah, I think that was the last thing. Okay. Um, the
Yep, let me
okay.
paste you the link on chat and then move on. Um, okay. Remove governance as optional for Sandbox. That's like still blocked. Anything else you want to talk about in tracking, assign, backlog?
It looks like maybe we have
Um,
2 Karmada governance review
issues?
issues. There's one there and there's one in the assigned.
Hmm. So which one is their actual work being done on? Oh, it's because one is a PR and the other one's an issue.
Oh,
Uh,
didn't realize PR showed up in the project board. That's my bad.
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay, now I see the icon. Thank you.
I actually don't remember what we are waiting for here. Like,
Okay.
Bill created the first draft. There were some comments. I wasn't really involved in this, so I don't know. I just checked very few stuff. Does anybody know, or should I skip?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe ask Bill where that is and if he needs any help with it.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're at the stage with this one, and this has been one of our issues with the governance process, right? Is the governance review flags a number of um, uh, flags a number of issues, um, which get attention from the project. Some of them get resolved, but some of them don't get resolved. And at a certain point, we should just go ahead and file the review as it is, right? Anything the project was not going to address, in a couple of weeks after reading the review, well, we can always do an updated review after they tell us they've addressed them. There is one flag for us, which was a request to Bill to identify how he measured contributions for the maintainer list. So that needs to go into it, and then we can file it. It looks like he identified some serious problems with, mainly, honestly, with maintainership, which is obviously an issue, where they have a sort of set of owners files and approver files and other files on whose own stuff, and those files are not in any way consistent with each other. So the yeah. Okay. I need to finish up cloud events this week, particularly since the TOC has decided to put it to a vote. Cloud events has resolved a lot of their readability problems with their governance. Because the initial assessment was you have a fair and balanced governance, but nobody who's not already involved with the project would understand it. And they've cleaned up a bunch of that. I should actually submit some PRs to make it a little bit clearer, but haven't gotten around to it. But they do have a lingering issue that they don't have any plan to replace their maintainers. And so again, I need to update that and file the final report.
Would you like a ping here, or are you good?
No, I'm good. I'm aware of it.
Okay.
Part of it is we're in a state right now where the governance review isn't actually required to graduate, and their TOC sponsor decided they wanted to go for a vote, regardless of whether it was complete or not.
There is actually a bit of confusion around this. So is it required or not? For example, for Knative.
It's suggested right now.
Okay.
And they're holding off on making it required for making it part of the integrated process for the new matriculation stuff.
Okay.
The part of it is that we have a divergence between what the TOC wants the goals of the governance review to be in the future and what they are now. Like everybody agrees that the 2org maintainer requirement is not doing its job as a requirement. And so one of the goals is to replace that with something that's a little bit more material to the goal of, hey, we don't want this project to be abandoned. But until then, it's sort of suggested, and the TOC can always choose not to wait. And ultimately, cloud events is a spec. So honestly, if it goes maintainerless for 3 months, it's not as critical as projects that actually push code, since specs tends to change very little once they reach their 1.0 version.
Yeah. So we have 1 minute, but we already kind of talked about everything in the board, I guess. There's nothing new. We talked about pretty much everything in progress and backlog. We already talked in the last meetings. there is any updates, let me know that I can write something, like that I
Mhm.
can type something after the meeting. If not, yep.
Okay. Yeah, we'll just follow up on this and we'll follow up on the question list. If you want to pull that back out of a PR and put it into something that all of us can mark up, whether it's like a HackMD or a Google Doc or something,
Yeah, yeah,
I think we can do a quicker iteration on it and then push it back into the branch.
yeah.
Once upon a time, GitHub was actually going to add like HackMD functionality to GitHub, and they never did, and I'm not quite sure why. It would make our lives much easier.
It would.
The
I have a lot of projects that I work on where we put things in Google Docs and then eventually move them over to GitHub, and you lose like the people that worked hard on it in Google Docs. You kind of lose all of their contributions. They just never show up in GitHub.
yeah, you lose comments that have important discussion behind them, and you have to hand reformat everything.
Yeah.
So anyway, I've got another meeting.
Yep, I gotta go. Thanks,
you.
everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
See you later. Cheers.